Dieser Monitor gibt dir Cheats in League of Legends. Let's see, worum es hierbei sich handelt.
What if I told you that there is a new gaming monitor that uses AI to let you, well, cheat? From pings to potential pseudo wall hacks, MSI's new monitor comes with built-in generative features that provide players with extra information about their opponent's whereabouts.
You might see little red skulls that pop up, like at the top or down at the bottom or off to the side. That's analyzing the mini-map and giving you an indication, there was one just there, of where the threat is coming from.
And let's just say that it's already sparking a ton of debate.
MSI makes the argument that this isn't cheating. AI-generated race.
That's cheating.
There's no denying that these features are useful. The question is whether they might be a little too useful. Is MSI's AI-infused display a way to basically buy over-the-counter cheats? And what could it spell for the future of esports? All right, so before we dive into the mysterious world of cheats, a friendly reminder to please like the video, sub to the channel, and turn on notifications. So you
Außer bei Serhat auf meinem Zweitkanal, dann bitte das alles machen, das wäre super, Dankeschön.
Never miss any of our newest content. So this past January, MSI made headlines at CES by debuting a gaming monitor called the MEG 321 URX QD OLED. It's a long name, but what matters is that MSI has put AI into the monitor that, among other things, could really give you a leg up in game. Depending on what you're playing, MSI's AI-driven SkySight software will feed you different types of supplemental information. Now, some of this is kind of cute, like how in League of Legends, the light bar situated at the bottom of the display changes color as your health gets lower. Which, I mean, I'm not sure who needs this feature since your health bar is literally right above it, but this is a pretty harmless gimmick. And if you're the kind of player who really needs an extra reminder as to the current state of your health bar, you've probably got bigger problems concerning your abilities on the Rift. But let's talk about the AI monitor's other features, because that is where shit gets wild. You see, SkySight's other League-related feature is creating a prompt which takes the form of a bright red skull with a directional arrow every time an enemy approaches your view frame on the minimap, which is really useful, like ludicrously useful. If you're an ADC and you're laser focused on last hitting or engaging and you look away from your minimap for 1 second, this prompt would absolutely alert you to a gank and provide you with an unfair advantage in avoiding it.
The demo they had running was monitoring the minimap area, and anytime an opposing hero approached your viewport, it would pop up a circle with an arrow indicating
on the screen
where they were on the screen, completely independent of any software running on your PC. So as far as I can tell, completely impossible to detect.
And as Linus mentioned, this is hard.
Das ist ja actually ziemlich big, no? Also es ist halt so die Frage, wo zieht man da die Grenze oder die Linie zwischen den verschiedenen halbwegs Cheat-Softwares, die wir eh schon haben. Vieles das, was Blitz.gg macht mit Jungle-Timer-Track und so, ist halt theoretisch alles, die argumentieren immer, es ist ja Informationen, die du eh schon hast, deswegen ist es kein Vorteil. Aber es ist halt so aufbereitet, dass es durchaus ein Vorteil sein kann. Weil kann gefährlich sein. Von wie Linus auch gerade gesagt hat, ist halt completely undetectable, weil es einfach dein Monitor selbst macht. Das ist ja gar nicht mal mit der PC zu tun. Verrückt.
Hardware encoded, which means it operates independently of your PC, meaning there's no way for any sort of anti-cheat to flag it. Now, there's a lot to say about this, but first, we sort of need to understand how it works. And for that, we need Colton.
And now, the guy who actually knows what he's talking about.
Wait a minute, I get to talk about AI and computer vision? Thank you for not letting this go to waste. Now, I'm going to skip over the explanation of what AI is and just go straight to the monitor because there are plenty of other videos out there that are going to do a better job of that anyway. First and foremost, what the heck is SkySight? What we do know is that the monitor contains its own dedicated processing chip that has been trained to recognize objects as they appear on the display. And the demo they've shown us is recognizing red dots of enemy champions on your minimap in League of Legends. Importantly, this happens without the monitor having to get any of that information from the game client itself. But let's back up for a second. Why any of
Junge, welche Sprache heißt denn Master Yi bitte? Mr. Yi, was ist das denn? Warum kommt da Mr. Yi auf den Weg? What the fuck?
that information from the game client itself? But let's back up for a second. Why is that revolutionary? In a time before AI, getting a computer program to react to visual information was one of the more difficult challenges programmers faced across multiple disciplines. Just think about how long we've been working on self-driving cars. To write a program without AI that does what this monitor is doing for League of Legends using purely visual data would not only be difficult and time-consuming, but likely wildly inaccurate and completely useless in any other video game. Even small updates to League could break the program and send you back to square one. With AI, you can train the software to recognize basically anything, and given enough time and data, there's no reason it wouldn't be perfectly accurate. And while the onboard processor is obviously not some supercomputer level hardware, that actually doesn't really matter in this case. All of the core-intensive model training can be done on a separate machine and then uploaded to the monitor with their handy little firmware update USB port. Maybe MSI won't train AI models for truly game-altering cheats, but there's no way they'll be able to keep all the third-party developers from running wild, especially as AI training hardware becomes more and more accessible. But let's get down to the real issue here. How serious is the cheating problem that this hardware presents? Well, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but pretty much any way you look at it, this is a huge upgrade for cheaters. But the back and forth between developers and cheaters has been going on since the dawn of time, and while I can't predict how this new technology will be reined in by developers...
Was ein Streamer, der on-stream Cheat detected wurde, oder was? Ah ne, Cheater has been punished in your game. Ach so, irgendwer, schade.
While I can't predict how this new technology will be reined in by developers, any solution likely starts with detecting this monitor, or any new AI-infused monitors that hit the market, and either forcing the game to be non-functional, or possibly even altering the image data from the game to disrupt these AI models. In terms of online tournaments, if this technology becomes widespread, we may even need to implement a similar system to online chess tournaments where competitors have a camera pointed at themselves and their monitor.
I wonder if anti-cheats are going to have to use like hardware detection.
But you can spoof the EDID of a monitor very easily. We're gonna have flipping a camera. You're gonna have to have a dedicated camera.
It doesn't always solve the problem.
Like plugged into your computer, pointed at your freaking screen and your hands. So they're gonna have to have their own AI that checks for any motion or any key press that doesn't correspond to what's happening.
There are
Das ist ja so Fakt. Und im Schach wäre es ja auch big, wenn so eine Kamera für dich analysiert, was stattfindet auf deinem Schachbrett halt und dann du dann Visual Indicators von deinem Monitor bekommst. Das ist ja alles nichts mit deinem PC zu tun hat. Das wäre voll big. E-Sports getting fucked oder was?
cheating softwares out there that are designed for when your chat asks you to point a camera at the screen.
I'll send you back to Dimitri with some words from YouTube legend Philip DeFranco. This is the worst this technology will ever be. So, game developers have a mountain to climb if they don't want to be left behind.
Das wäre Cheating im Chess? Ja, natürlich. Darum geht's ja in dem Video. Ja, klar.
Because this is not the last time we're going to hear about AI being used to cheat.
And that was the guy who actually knows what he's talking about.
Okay, now that we have at least some idea as to how this works, we gotta ask the hard questions. Is this cheating? Does a ping that alerts you to something that is already...
Chat, Bestandsaufnahme, was sagt ihr? Ist das Cheaten, ja oder nein? Würdet ihr sagen, dieser Skull, der aufpoppt, ist Cheaten?
Your minimap
ja oder nein?
Constitute an unfair advantage. In my opinion, yes. The line between fair and unfair play is sort of like that between tasteful nudity and full-on pornography. It's a little difficult to define.
Wilder Vergleich, jetzt bin ich horny geworden.
But you know it when you see it.
MSI makes the argument that this...
Okay, und jetzt Chat, ihr habt fast alle Ja gesagt, dass es Cheaten ist. Ja? Fast alle haben Ja gesagt. Wie viele von euch haben Blitz oder Professor oder sowas installiert? Eins in den Chat. Eine Menge Einsen, aber ich sehe noch mehr Zweien. Blitz ist ja auch argumentiert ja basically, du benutzt nur das, was du eh schon hast. Und jetzt würden alle sagen, du benutzt auch nur die Information, die du eh schon hast, anders aufbearbeitet, aber ist quasi nicht Cheaten. Ich bin auch mit dem Boot drin, dass es auf jeden Fall, oder dieser Minimap Pop-Up-Skull Cheaten ist, mit dieser Skylight-Software, was auch immer das sein soll. Aber ich glaube, eine Menge von der Community wird das einfach trotzdem machen. Und das wäre denen egal.
Isn't cheating because all it's doing is watching the minimap for you. So in theory, it's not doing anything a skilled player.
Es ist Cheaten, wenn du neben mir stehst und mir Tipps gibst? Eigentlich ja. Also wenn ich dir halt sage, auf der Minimap passiert X und X, kann es Cheaten sein. Kann man das Cheating interpretieren, definitiv. Arbeiten zwei Gehirne am Game, nicht nur eins. Kann halt für dich die Information, kann auch verwirrend sein oder gar nicht was bringen, kann negativ für dich sein. Wenn ich dir halt allgemeine Tipps gebe, wie du halt deine Spells drücken sollst oder so, dann würde ich davon weniger sagen, dass es Cheaten wäre. Aber wenn zwei Leute das Spiel spielen und die Karten und so bla bla bla, dann maybe kann man argumentieren, ja, durchaus, ja. Die Coachings an League of Legends ist auch Cheating. Also zum Beispiel Maxim hat unter meinem Coaching deutlich besser gespielt als ohne mich. Er musste nur noch das machen, was ich ihm angeschrien habe. Er war auf jeden Fall besser mit mir als ohne mich. Ich war da in dem Kontext durchaus ein Cheat.
Player couldn't already do on their own, but by that logic, why not highlight your opponents in CS2 or draw an AI-generated racing line in Mario Kart?
There is a pretty obvious difference between having access to a higher refresh rate or a lighter gaming mouse and a monitor that fundamentally alters how enemies
Kommt dann immer nur dann in Reichweite dieser Totenkopf, wenn quasi der Gegner auf der Karte innerhalb also kurz vor deiner Kamera quasi ist, ja? Jetzt hier Yorick ist quasi gerade kurz sichtbar und
how enemies appear within the user interface. One helps you use your existing skills. The other gives you skills that you otherwise wouldn't have.
I'm legit been sponsored my entire life by peripherals, and not a single one of them is really much different than just, to be honest, like a mechanical keyboard, a f***ing Logitech mouse. Yeah, there's extra buttons, but how is it any different than having just a regular $20 mouse that you buy from Staples? In terms of like actual performance, this is just a completely different universe.
What's crazy is that things might get more complicated. MSI claims that they're looking to expand their AI to be useful in more games. The issue with peripherals generating AI alerts or full-blown outlines and shooters is that you can flick to them. It is not a coincidence that the vast majority of top competitors play on stretched resolutions. I remember discussing this with Dr. Madison Klarkowski for the Cracked we did on stretched, and she agreed that playing on 4.3 probably makes it easier for our lizard brains to process.
I mean, if the majority is doing it, then I guess it's not just for the fun of it. There is something to it, and it's something that would benefit from further exploration. I mean, you can't just, discount the opinion of many experts who are choosing this alternative display method.
And while I'm obviously not suggesting that playing in 4.3 is cheating, it does demonstrate the importance of simplifying what is in front of us. A huge part of shooters really is just see thing, click thing faster than other person click thing. In CSGO, for instance, if you looked at your minimap as a smoke was fading, your opponent would appear on your HUD milliseconds before their model became visible. Glaive famously made use of this in the early days of the Astralis era and raised a ton of eyebrows.
Just in time to deny Magisk.
That's crazy.
Walk through smoke, he's...
Also er hat auf die quasi auf der Minimap das zuerst gesehen, oder wie? Und dann ist die Smoke erst weg, oder wie ist das?
Glaive famously made use of this in the early days of the Astralis era and raised a ton of eyebrows.
Ja, voll geil. Ist doch gut von ihm. Ist halt, wenn das Game die Information gibt auf der Minimap, warum solltest du nicht benutzen? Also wenn das Game halt so ist, da haben wir alle den gleichen Vorteil. Da hat keiner einen Vorteil, weil der einen Monitor gekauft hat, sondern ist halt das Game so.
Just in time to deny Magisk.
That's crazy.
Walk through smoke, he's got you.
Even then, people accused Glaive of either cheating, bug abusing, or both. Now, obviously...
Bug Abusing, maybe. Also weiß halt nicht, wie das Game ist. Für League kann sowas als Bug Abuse dann ausgelegt werden, wenn wir etwas Ähnliches hätten. Aber wenn es seit Jahren so wäre in dem Game, der Monitor würde den anzeigen. Oh, so ist es gemeint. Aber kein Monitor kann aus dem Minimap nicht genau wissen, was der Typ macht, right? Der sieht nur dieses rote Viereck. Also kann er nicht sagen, wo genau der steht, ob der croucht, ob der gerade springt. Aber verstanden, also würde dann quasi so ein rotes Outlining geben in der Smoke. Das wäre dann wieder natürlich kacke. Ja, natürlich, ja, verstanden, was du sagst.
Either. But the point is twofold. One, how and when things appear on your screen can make all the difference. And two, enthusiasts of FPS in particular can become understandably, let's say, irritable when they detect even the faintest whisper of a wall hack. So let's take a concrete example of this. Let's say you're on Mirage and you see someone jump out of a window and land underpass like this. In CS, as is, you're gonna have a question mark on your minimap that serves as an indicator to you and your teammates signaling where the enemy player is. Now, a question mark on your HUD is helpful, but you're still just staring at a wall. You know he's under, obviously, but you don't know how high he's standing. Plus, it's hard in the moment to know what the verticality of this angle is. But let's assume for a second that you're using predictive AI wall hacks, and that question mark becomes an outline. This outline is gonna give you an actual visual indication of the exact position in which they're standing. Now, it is AI. It's predictive. They could move, obviously, and you could swing the angle, and they could be in the cubby or push you, but the reality is that this is a hell of a lot more helpful than just a question mark on your minimap. What's more, if your teammate is pushing under and they get this outline for even a second while they're coming down these stairs and they peek, they basically have wall hacks. Needless to say,
also warte,
the reality.
Also es ist predictive gemeint. Also die will dann versuchen zu vermuten, wie sich der Spieler verhält. Und gibt dir dann eine Red Outline, wie auch immer, wo der Gegner sein könnte oder wie. Ja, ist safe auch weird, aber es kann auch einfach nutzlos sein, wenn der Gegner halt sich nicht normal verhält. Das ist auf jeden Fall ein fetter Vorteil. Da würde ich hart mitgehen. Also wenn du das aus dem Augenwinkel gesehen hast, wie auch immer, nur eine Bewegung wahrgenommen hast, was auch immer, und dann kannst du das Game genau sagen, was Sache war. Für diese eine Sekunde hast du halt viel mehr Informationen als davor. Aber wie oft passiert das wirklich in dem Game? Oder mal gucken, wie es ausgeflasht wird. Keine Ahnung von CSGO, aber ja, auf jeden Fall ein fetter Vorteil.
Needless to say, the implications of this type of AI assistance are far-reaching, not to mention troubling. Depending on how sophisticated these tools become, they could absolutely pose a real threat to esports integrity and maybe even get banned in certain tournaments.
Now, this opens up a whole range of questions when it comes to like ethics and video games and especially competitive gaming. Is this okay? Is this cheating? Will game developers have any way to work around something like this? Are MSI monitors going to be banned for use in like tournament gameplay or something like that?
Now, as we've already said, right now this stuff is still fairly primitive. What's concerning is how and when it evolved. The sad part is that this type of technology could be world-changing for those with disabilities. If you have a physical issue with seeing a minimap, you don't need a dev anymore to fix it. AI can do it for you. The problem is that the cost of such accessibility could be catastrophic for competitive gaming as a whole. It's hard to know how.
Auch für Casual Gaming. Niemand mag es, outplayed zu werden von nicht einem besseren Spieler, sondern einfach nur, weil das System von ihm Pay to Win ist oder so.
How possible it is to regulate what kind of firmware gets uploaded to this thing. And for now, seemingly no way for the developer to detect it. So you're basically offering cheaters an offshore account to stash their shit. I really hope that this tech brings cheaters an offshore.
Wer weiß, dass er um die Ecke kommen sollte, wenn er gerade ausgelaufen wäre. Also wenn du quasi doch irgendjemand von dir hat den gesehen und dann, wenn er durchgelaufen ist, kommt er genau jetzt um die Ecke. Das ist ja komplett huge. Das ist ja komplett insane.
Offshore account to stash their shit. I really hope that this technology is put to good use and that gamers who are starving for accessibility options can eventually benefit from it. But in the meantime, we can all hope that devs find a way to combat cheaters on yet another axis.
Ja, klingt ja absolut scheiße. Also, what the fuck? Wir sollen auch mal aufhören. Vor allem, du kannst ja wirklich dann alles auch. Also, du kannst ja nicht einen Monitor dann bannen. Sobald es irgendeine Software gibt, du kannst ja wahrscheinlich auch viele Monitore einfach applyen. Ja, mag ich nicht, Chat. Das gefällt mir nicht. Das gefällt mir gar nicht. Auch mal nicht machen, Riot Games.